Hi guys, welcome to this video. Uh, Today let's discuss about the weakest pawn in your chess setup, in a standard setup, the weakest pawn which you can have. So that is the f pawn. Like, why do we say that this is the weakest pawn? Because the f pawn is the only pawn which is not guarded by any of the pieces. And it is only guarded by the king. And when if a bishop or a queen sits on the either these two squares, then there is no piece that can block the entire diagonal apart from the pawns. So in usually the fastest ways to checkmate, that is the scholar's mate and the fool's mate, both use the f pawn, both attack the f pawn and use this weakness to deliver a very quick checkmate. Both checkmates you will be very familiar with, but in actual tournament play we don't use any of these checkmates because everyone will be familiar with it, and it's not a very good way to start out with your piece when the queen is just outside very early in the game. But our world champion, who can be claimed as the by far the most entertaining world champion, has actually used this. So in 2018 Rapid and Blitz World Cup, the world champion, he in the first round he played a match and he lost it on time. So the second match, when he came in to play the game, he was very flustered. He was very angry. So he just opened up with scholar's mate against an international master, and even the world champion lost this game. So it's not at all recommendable to use the scholar's mate when you're playing a serious game. So, talking about going back to the f pawn, how can we use the f pawn to, if the opponent uses the pushes the f pawn right in the beginning, how can we exploit this? So let's take this example where black has pushed f6 right on move 2. So if he does so, how can you exploit this? So one of the basic things I would like to tell you, uh, this is one line which I would like to show you, where you play knight h4, knight to h4. This is not unavoidable, but it's a very awkward move, and if for some reason black thinks that he's playing against a fool and completely ignores this, plays something else, then you have this queen to, oh sorry, that's not the queen, queen to h5 with check. And here the most natural response is to block with the pawn, and if he does so, then you can capture the pawn with the knight itself, because if you recapture the knight, you obviously get the rook, you'll lose the rook. And if you don't capture the knight, then you're into even more trouble, because let's say you play something like this, then you're losing the rook anyway with a discovered check, and that's just game over. So this is one of the lines, but this is not avoidable, and this is not very strong as well. In this position, you can play this move where knight captures on e5. This doesn't seem like much right in the beginning, but in case black chooses to recapture the knight, then he gets into really bad trouble. You can play queen to h5 with check, and here the most natural response is to block with the pawn, and if he does so, then queen captures on e5 is coming with check, forking the rook, and the rook is just lost. So you lose a pawn and a rook for a knight, and that is just winning for white. And in case he doesn't go for this and he moves his king, then he is into even more trouble, because anyway now queen captures on e5 will come, and after the king moves, bishop to c4 with check, and here you have to block with the pawn. Bishop takes the pawn with check again. Now the king moves, and after the king moves, you can play h4. The threat here is, let's say after some move like bishop to d6 attacking the queen, you can still go for h5 with check, and the only move here is to his king to h6, and here you can play this move, d4 with check, g5, and there's a quick mate which follows right after this. Pawn captures d5 en passant, and after king takes the pawn, you can play queen to h5 with check, and after the king moves, wherever the king goes, queen to f7 is checkmate. King can't go anywhere, so there's a quick checkmate which follows. So black has to avoid this at all costs. So he can play here in this position he can push h5 himself, not allowing the pawn to move forward. Now there's a very strange move for white, even if it's an engine line and it's not very human like. If you can't spot the next move, this position itself is pretty more than enough compensation for the knight that you've lost, because your queen and bishop are outside, and the king is very awkward. You can go on by attacking the king and improve your position. Otherwise, you can play this very interesting move, bishop takes on b7. The intention of this move is to deflect the bishop. So in case he doesn't go capture, want to retake the bishop, you can just go and grab that rook, and that's more than enough compensation for you. In case he tries to grab the bishop, then this very interesting move follows. Check with the queen, and after king moves, d3 with a discovered check from the bishop, and after the black blocks with the pawn, you can take with the bishop, attacking the king and forking the queen, and you just pick up the queen. So this is completely winning for white, where the queen is lost and the king is so awkward. So that's one thing that you can do. That's why you never push the f pawn right in the beginning. And highlighting one more weakness of this f pawn, I just wanted to show you this very amazing trap, where let's take this example: knight f3, d6, knight c3, bishop to g4, and now bishop to c4. And now if black plays something like c5, here you have a very interesting, very fun tactic, where you just give up your queen. You move the knight away and give up the queen by playing knight captures on e5. And in case black decides to take this bait, you can play bishop captures on f7 with check, and after king moves, you can just play bishop knight to d5, and this is checkmate, because the bishop guards these two squares, sorry, the knight guards these two squares, this knight guards the other two squares, the bishop guards the e6 and the e8 squares, and it's a very beautiful checkmate right in the center of the board. So this is a trap that you can use in any of your matches actually, because it's quite unnoticeable for any opponent. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys won't push your f pawn after watching this video. Thanks a lot for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.